Victor Wembenyama. A player I have been fiending to make a video on, and now it's time. Wemby is an anomaly in the NBA. In this video, we'll be deep diving into why Victor Wembenyama is an NBA alien. Now, let me get this out of the way. When I'm discussing NBA alien, I'm not referencing the fact he is from France. I'm not xenophobic. Now, let's start the real video for real. Alien has many definitions, but the one I'm using is a hypothetical or fictional being from another world. Wemby is a player who is seen as an NBA anomaly. He is 7'3", which is something that isn't normal, but it's not like we haven't seen it before. Keith Kloss, Bol Bol, Randy Brewer, Sweaty Halbrook, Alexander Radovich, Typer Pelly, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Hashim Thabit, Walter Tavares, Peter John Ramos, Arvydas Sabonis, Hakeem June, and Ralph Sampson. All these players are 7'3", so why didn't they have the same height or the same career as Wemby is projected to have? Keith Kloss was selected by the Los Angeles Clippers, and even at a staggering height of 7'3", only played for 3 seasons before he was out of the league. Bol Bol is currently on the Phoenix Suns and is on the bench. Even though people like Shaq thinks that he can do the same Wemby can, it's just not true. Bol Bol lacks in areas that Wemby excel in. He isn't that great of a shooter or defender that Wemby is. People say he hasn't been given opportunities, but I think that he has been given a plethora and just haven't capitalized on it. Randy Brewer, a center who played 11 years in the 80s and 90s, he never really had a prosperous career as he wasn't a great rebounder and also didn't get as many blocks, but he was tall. Sweaty Halbrook played 2 years in the 70s before not being in the NBA anymore. Alexander Radovich played 1 season for the Raptors, went to another league, then 5 years later he returned, but only for 1 year. Typer Pelly only played 1 season in the 2015-2016 season. Zydrunas Ilgauskas, who had a good career. He is well known for being on the Cleveland Cavaliers. He is a 2-time All-Star who was a good rebounder and a good presence in the paint. He had injury issues and wasn't a great second option to have next to LeBron James. Hashim Thabit was projected to be something as he was the 2nd pick in the 2009 draft. Yes, the draft that had Stephen Curry in it. He played 5 years and again didn't reach his potential. Walter Tavares was drafted by the Atlanta Hawks and only played 2 years before being released. Peter John Ramos is a Puerto Rican player who was on the Wizards for 1 season before not being in the NBA anymore. Arvydas Sabonis played 7 years, and I would say he's one of the best of this list I'm using so far. Sabonis is a top 10 player of all time, but he was a good center. He was plagued by injuries, unfortunately, but during those 7 years, he was a good offensive center, but didn't reach his full potential. Hakeem June only played 2 years before not being in the NBA anymore. Ralph Sampson played 9 years and is the best out of this list. He was a 4-time All-Star and a Rookie of the Year. He found success as he was nicknamed the Twin Towers with a player you might know known as Hakeem Olajuwon. After the years on the Rockets, though, it just didn't work out as he was plagued with injuries. Now, after naming all these players, what makes Wemby different? Wemby is different because he isn't a traditional center. Now, when I say traditional center, most of the 7'3" people I named play center. Center, as in rebounds, blocks, and defending in the paint, not in space. Wemby is different. Let's deep dive into it. Defense. Wemby has a different style of defense that is coming into style now in the NBA. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, your ability to play defense in space was great, but something that isn't needed like it is today. People like Rudy Gobert, despite being a multi-time Defensive Player of the Year winner, gets flack for his inability to play in space. For someone like Draymond Green, it's the opposite. Draymond Green is able to defend in the paint. Now, he isn't a lockdown, but he can defend the paint. But what makes Draymond different is his ability to defend in space. Space. When I'm talking about space, I'm referencing the space outside of paint. That area is important as a mid-range can be shot or a floater, but it also can pull the center up and allow for a pass. This is what separates Wemby. Now, Wemby is a talented defender in space, but his ability to move laterally at 7'3" is what gives him so much potential. Also, he can play great help defense. Something that is the issue is his frame, but even with that, he can still defend centers, just not the ones that are at the top of the league. Now, what about offensively? Wemby. Something I have to point out Wemby is his three-point shooting. Now, last year he shot 5.5 3-pointers a game and only converted on 1.8, which is 32%, but it's different this year. Now, on the screen, I have the top 10 shooters last season for centers, and obviously at 32%, he wouldn't fit on this chart. But this year, he's shooting 34% on 8 attempts per game. One, that's a lot of attempts, but two, he would fit on the 8th spot on last year's. Now for this year, which on the screen, he would be at the number 9 spot. For a 7'3" center to be able to shoot like that isn't normal. Now Wemby needs to be more accurate with less attempts, but the growth is going to show eventually. Even with that, it's not like Wemby is a cone offensively. He can still get up the court for lobs, get up the court for the mid-range, and play post as well. As he shoots 46% from the field and 53% on 2-pointers, this is efficient as he is attempting a lot of shots as well. Again, I have to bring him defense. He has been averaging 3.7 blocks this year so far and 10.5 rebounds. Insane. Victor Wembenyama is an NBA alien. He is supposed to do these things at his position. And if you haven't bought stock in this French player, you need to soon. He will be a top 10 player in the NBA soon.